I still remember the moment that changed everything for me. It was my first year of college when I first discovered that my parents had been hiding my mother's cancer from me. She had cancer and she had been fighting that battle all alone. They even took loans to fund my education, which could have been used for my mother's treatment. These are the moments which you never forget. In those moments, I learned something that could forever change my understanding of leadership. In service, this is a word we often throw around in leadership circles. Just to see my parents redirecting money to my education that could have helped her medically, it was quite difficult to understand back then. I even got angry with them. In that moment, I witnessed what is possible when love and service outruns logic. My parents' sacrifice was not just about my education or like a duty as a parent. It was a profound demonstration of what it means to approach life from what I call a bringing to state of being rather than a getting from state of being. Now, this distinction between bringing to and getting from has become the cornerstone of my life work. Everything I do today is to show people what is possible, which not only means business success but also deeper human relationships. Loving boldly, caring deeply, speaking authentically, and taking a stand for your deepest held beliefs, values, and principles. So, today I want to share how this simple distinction can transform not just how you lead but also how you live. Your dreams and ambitions are within reach, and you don't have to wait to live them. And it begins with understanding the power of the distinction bringing to versus getting from. Most of us have been conditioned to approach life, both personal and professional, with an unconscious focus on what can we get. We seek validation, we seek recognition, and we seek fulfillment from outside sources. When we don't receive what we are looking for, we often conclude that there is something wrong with the relationship itself or there is something wrong with us. And this getting from state of being is so deeply ingrained in our society, in the world that we live in, that we rarely question it. Like, this is the part of the individualistic society. What can I get out of this is the default state most of us operate, right? Including me, most of my life has been living from the getting from state of being. Now, this getting from state of being is so deeply ingrained that we rarely question it. It is like the water we swim in, it is like the air we breathe. But the question here is, what if there is another way? And that's where the bringing to state of being flips this completely. Now, instead of asking, what can I get from this person, from this situation, from this team, you basically start asking, what can I bring? What am I bringing to? What am I contributing to this person, to this situation, to this team? And this is actually not about self-sacrifice or martyrdom. This is about recognizing that the most fulfilling and the most effective way to lead and to live our lives is to approach each interaction with a focus on contribution, with a focus on giving rather than taking or getting. And the most successful givers, the people who give the best, they don't give at the expense of their own well-being. Instead, they bring their best to each interaction while still maintaining those healthy boundaries, right? So let me share a personal example of the cost of a getting from mindset. Early on, when I started as a coach, I worked with a CEO who approached every interaction with a question, what can I get here? His leadership, as a result, created a culture of fear, withholding, and ultimately stagnation. There was a point where everybody was showing up every day. They were doing the minimum, they were doing what they were supposed to do, but nobody was telling him what everybody knew about the business, about the company, and it led to the stagnation of the business. Employees protected their ideas, they focused on survival rather than any kind of creativity and innovation. Now, the irony in this situation was painful, right? The more he tried to get value from his people, the more he tried to extract value, the less value there was to extract, because he was coming from a getting from state of being. Now, his company eventually lost market share and he was replaced by the board as the CEO. Now, contrast this with a leader, let's say like Satya Nadella, who transformed Microsoft by shifting from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture, and which essentially means moving from getting from to a bringing to mindset. And since this cultural shift, Microsoft's market value has grown by more than 600%. Now, my own realization to this journey after college, when I was like, I wanted to succeed, I wanted to pay back the loans that my family had taken, I was driven by a lot of things, but I wanted and I pursued success with a very singular focus. I climbed the corporate ladder very quickly, but something felt hollow inside despite all of those achievements. I became whom we sometimes call a go-getter, and I went out and I got what I wanted, including money, including titles, including recognition, and all of that. I got it. But I still remember the exact moment this distinction became clear to me once again. I was leading high stakes projects with an impossible deadline. The pressure was very high, and I found myself increasingly frustrated with my team. During one particularly tense meeting, I caught myself thinking, why aren't they giving me what I need to succeed? And then it hit me. I had been approaching leadership and this new team that I was leading as a transaction where my role was to get something out of it, get productivity out of it, get quality out of my team. And that night I made a decision to totally flip this script. And now instead of asking, what am I getting from my team? I started asking, what am I bringing to my team? So the next morning I walked in with a totally different energy. I was not there to extract performance. I was there to bring support. I was there to bring clarity. I was there to bring genuine appreciation for each other's unique contributions. The transformation was not immediate in the team because they still looked at me with some suspicion in the beginning, but it was unmistakable. Within weeks, the same team that I had labeled as underperforming was exceeding expectations. The project that seemed doomed became our department's greatest success story of that year. But the most profound change was not even in my team or in the productivity or in that project. It was in me. I discovered that satisfaction comes from not from what you get, it comes from what you give. I felt an amount of satisfaction, peace, happiness, joy that I had never felt in all those years of climbing the corporate ladder and trying to make it, trying to pursue success. Now, to help you practice this distinction, I have developed what I call the Bring framework, which includes 5 very practical dimensions that you can implement starting today. So the B stands for being before doing. Now the bringing to distinction begins with who you are, not what you do. Before you can bring your best to others, you must cultivate your own internal being. And now many leaders believe that practice makes perfect, right? It's all about doing, but that's not quite right. Mindless practice only reinforces existing patterns. You cannot practice your way. You cannot practice your way out of getting from state of being if that's your default state. Now the truth is that conscious practice, deliberate practice is what leads to shift, what leads to progress. So here is something you can try starting today. Begin each day with a 5-minute reflection on your intention for that day and ask yourself, who do I want to be for my team today? Not what I have to do, not what are the action items, the to-do list, but who do I want to be for my team today? Start asking yourself, who do I need to be for my team today? And I remember after my mother passed away, I found myself going through the motions of leadership. I was in a leadership role in a large organization. I was present physically, but I was totally absent emotionally. And I created a morning ritual where I would simply look at her photo. I would keep her photo in my wallet for a long time and ask myself, how would she want me to show up today? Now, this simple practice transformed my presence as a leader, transformed my state of being as a leader. My mom was a perfect example of giving your best, even though when she was sick, giving your best, never making excuses, never using anything, even her sickness, as an excuse to not be able to do anything. And that's what I started to bring into my leadership after I started this practice of looking at her photo before I started my day each day. The R in this framework starts for take responsibility for your energy. And again, energy is contagious, especially as a leader. Your energy sets a tone for your team, for your department's energy. Now, the bringing to leaders takes full responsibility for their energy and that they bring to every interaction, every conversation. You take complete responsibility for the emotional state, for the energy that you bring to any conversation, and you can choose that. So before every meeting, every conversation, you can ask yourself, what energy am I bringing? And is it aligned with the objective of the meeting? Is it aligned with my highest intentions for myself? What you can do is you can simply create a very small 30-second energy check before important meetings. Take 30 seconds to assess your emotional state and consciously choose the energy that you want to bring in those 30 seconds before you enter into a meeting. Now, during a particularly challenging company restructuring, I noticed my anxiety was affecting my team's confidence. Now, there was a big restructure happening, and there was a lot of anxiety about who will stay, who will not be able to retain their job, and so on. And a simple practice that I did, especially for my team, is I started taking 5 deep breaths before entering any meeting. And what that led me to do, maybe my words did not change, but it released tension from my body. And a team member later told me that my calm presence during those periods was what enabled the team to actually navigate that uncertainty without taking on a lot of stress. The I in the Bring framework stands for investment but without attachment. Now, the invitation here is to bring your full investment to any relationship, to any outcome, to any meeting, but practice non attachment to any specific outcome. Now, this might sound paradoxical, caring deeply while holding the outcome very lightly. So, you care about a meeting, a conversation, a particular outcome very deeply, right? You are fully involved, you are not holding back. At the same time, you hold it lightly, you hold it with a sense of lightness. It creates space. What it does, it creates space for others to step into your own power and for you to show up powerfully as well. Now, when you are attached to getting a particular outcome or a particular response from a person, people sense it and often resist. When you push, people push back. But when you bring your best without any attachment, you create psychological safety that allows others to bring their best as well, because they know that you are not judging them. They know that you are fully invested, so you are fully there, passionate with your energy, but you're not judging them, even if your words are critical of them. Now, when delegating important tasks, you can clearly communicate your investment in both the person and the outcome, and then explicitly give them autonomy. It could look something like, I trust your judgment on how to approach it, and let me know if you need any help from me. Now, for me, I learned this lesson painfully. I was launching a new software project and I was so attached to my vision that I started micromanaging the team, and that ended up creating resentment in the team. Now, when I finally stepped back and actually said that I trust you to make this great, even if it is great in your own way, not exactly my way, the team actually exceeded my original vision with innovations that I could never have thought about, I could never have conceived earlier. The N in the Bring framework is needs awareness, awareness of needs. Now, you have to understand that all behavior, all human behavior, whether it is your behavior or somebody else's behavior, is an attempt to meet fundamental human needs. We all have needs. We have need to be seen, we have need for autonomy, we have need to be loved, to grow, to appreciative, to feel safe. All of these are our needs, and the Bringing to leader develops literacy in identifying these needs and then addressing them directly if they are missing. For example, when a team member is underperforming, instead of asking, how do I get better performance, you can ask what needs might be unmet that are affecting their ability to contribute fully. That's a very different shift in energy. So in your next one-on-one meeting, right, you can try the needs conversation. You can ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you feel that your needs for autonomy, for mastery, for growth, for purpose are being met in your current role? And if the score is lower than 7 or 8, then help them explore specific ways that they can actually bridge that gap. I remember one of my most valuable team members was once becoming increasingly withdrawn in the team meetings. Rather than focusing on the behavior, I invited her to coffee and simply asked her about her needs. What she revealed in those moments was she felt that her expertise wasn't fully being utilized. I simply restructured her role, even gave her a few responsibilities unofficially, but what that did is not only did her engagement return, but she also delivered breakthrough insights that significantly improved our product. I'll share another story. During a one-on-one meeting with a person in my team, I noticed tears in their eyes, and I was being present to that person, so I simply stopped and asked, are those tears in your eyes? Like, is there something which is bothering you? And in that moment, this person revealed to me that they care very deeply about ethics, and they were not sure if what we were doing in our team was purely ethical. So I invited her to have a conversation with the entire team about what we wanted to do and how that was ethical or not, right? The ethics issue at hand, it helped her release or express what she cared about, what she stood for, and that suddenly created a lot of synergy in the team. Most importantly, this person not only brought herself fully into the team, within 6 months she became the ethics ambassador for a larger department which included 8 or 9 teams, and that filled her up with energy, that filled her up with joy because it was aligned with her needs. The G in the Bring framework stands for generative questioning. The questions that we ask ourselves, and others shape the reality that we live in. Getting from leaders ask, what is wrong? Who is to blame? Or how do we fix this? Bringing to leaders, on the other hand, ask generative questions that open possibilities. What is trying to emerge here? What could make this relationship even better? How can I support your highest potential? The quality of your life, right? Questions like these immediately shift the quality of your life, because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you are asking yourself and others. And many times these questions might not be conscious, they might be subconscious on the back of your mind. So one thing which you can do is you can create a very simple question transformation practice for your team. You can identify the 3 questions which are most commonly either coming up in the meetings, or they are always in the back of the mind of the leaders or of the people who are in a particular team. And you can reframe them from being problem focused questions like what is wrong, how can I fix something, to opportunity focused questions, right? For example, you can change why are we behind schedule to what can we do today to enable us to accelerate our progress, accelerate our timeline. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, right? You might be thinking all of this sounds great, but what about when things get tough? Now, what I want to share here is the journey from the getting from state of being to the bringing to state of being is not always smooth. It sounds simple, but it is not easy. So I'm not trying to help you see that it's an easy shift, but it could be simple. And yes, there are real challenges on the way, but it is a very simple shift which can prevent a lot of unnecessary effort and help you produce the results that you actually want. Now, one of the most common concerns that I get from people about the bringing to state of being is the fear of being exploited or burning out or taking advantage of. Now, this is legitimate, right? Giving without boundaries can in fact lead to depletion and resentment. So the key here is to distinguish between healthy giving and unhealthy self-sacrifice. Now, healthy giving comes from a place of fullness and choice. Unhealthy self-sacrifice comes from a place of emptiness and obligation. This is not a strategy. This is not a tactic. This is not something you do. This is something you become. This is something you bring with you when you join a meeting. Now, after my mom's passing away, I initially honored her memory by saying yes to everybody who needed help, regardless of the cost to me, to my own well-being. Now, the result of that was predictable: burnout and then resentment, and almost a feeling which I had for a long time of not being alive, not feeling that aliveness in my body. Now, the turning point came for me when I realized that the bringing to leadership actually requires self-care as a foundation. Self-care is not selfish. If you're operating to give, then self-care becomes the most selfless act that you can do. Now, I couldn't bring my best to others if I was depleted. So setting healthy boundaries for me was not a betrayal of my mom's legacy. It was actually the only way to honor it. So always remember this: when you put yourself first, you can serve others the best. Now, another challenge often arises, right, when we are trying to embody this bringing to state of being. Now, within an organization that operates primarily from a getting from paradigm, and many organizations operate from like what is in it for me kind of a state of being. Now, early in my career, I worked in a very competitive, a very zero-sum culture. Now, when I began focusing on a more generous, more giving approach, I faced skepticism and even sometimes ridicule from my peers who saw my behavior as naive. Now, rather than abandoning my approach, I focused on creating a small microculture within my team while demonstrating the business value of the bringing to state of being. Over time, our team's results spoke for themselves, and other leaders also started to take notice. Now, as powerful as the bringing to mindset is for achieving traditional success, its greatest impact may be in transforming how we define success itself. Now, for much of my early career, right, especially in the early phases of my career, I defined success in very conventional terms: advancement, promotions, recognition, financial rewards. I even remember I once declined a job opportunity because a senior was missing in the job title. That was the only reason. Everything else was perfect, but they were not giving me a senior in the job title. Now, these aren't any negative goals, right, to aim for recognition, to aim for financial rewards, but they created, especially for me, a perpetual sense of striving without ever getting there, without ever feeling like arriving. Now, my parents taught me a very different definition of success, which is based on contribution rather than acquisition. And this is not just about me, they have lived their life in a way that they have contributed to so many people around them, even when they did not have a lot for themselves or for our family. They did not measure their lives by what they accumulated. They measured their lives by what they gave or how many people did they impact. Now, as I have embraced bringing to distinction more fully in the last couple of years in my career as one of the best leadership coaches on this planet, my own definition of success has evolved. I still value achievement and I still am very ambitious, but it's no longer my primary metric. Instead, today, almost every week, I ask questions like, how have I helped others grow and thrive? What positive impact have I created beyond myself? Am I living in alignment with my deepest values? Am I fully present and alive in the moment? So it could very easily happen that I have a week where I'm getting rejected multiple times. But when I ask myself these questions, I can see that I made an impact to somebody's life. And that fills me up. And that is something that nobody can take that away from me. And I can always have that with me. So this shift, this distinction from getting from mindset to bringing to state of being, it does not diminish your ambition. In fact, it transforms it completely. My ambition is not now just for personal achievement, but also for collective growth. Like with my clients, with my teammates, with my partners, my ambition is now for everybody. And when I dream for everybody, I also get a lot back for myself as well. But I'm not coming from a place of what do I get out of it. So to wrap this up, right, this is bigger. This is bigger than whatever I do. This is bigger than whatever you do. We almost stand at a critical inflection point in the evolution of leadership in the world today. Not just business leadership, but also political, social leadership. Now, the old paradigm of getting from state of being, the individual state of being, I would say has reached its limit. Now it is creating burnout, it is creating disengagement in organizations, and a profound sense that something essential is missing from our lives, especially at work, but also outside of it. Now the bringing to state of being offers not just a more fulfilling approach to leadership, but also a more effective one. Leaders and organizations that focus on contribution rather than taking outperform their peers on virtually any meaningful metric. But even beyond the business case, right, there is also a deeper truth. Each one of us is at our best, most alive and most fulfilled when we are bringing our gifts forward rather than focused on what we are getting out of it. And our creativity, our love, our caring, our trust, these gifts, our talents, they don't deplete when we give it, when we bring these. If we don't bring them, we don't get to keep more of it. When we bring more of this, we actually have more practice and bringing more of them out, and our talents, our skills, our gifts actually become stronger when we don't hold ourselves back from bringing them out to any conversation that we are in. And very sincerely, it pains me. It pains me to meet people who have a dream in their eyes, but who believe that is not possible, that is too far for them. And I see in them the same potential that my parents saw in me, possibilities that might never be realized if they remain trapped in a getting from state of being. Now, as you leave this video, I want you to take 3 specific actions. First of all, start with one relationship. It could be a work relationship, it could be a personal relationship. But identify one important relationship and consciously shift from what am I getting out of this relationship to what am I bringing to this conversation, to this relationship, and notice what changes. Now, the second thing I want you to take away is transform your team. Immediately introduce the bring framework that we talked about today to your team and implement at least one of the actionable steps that we have discussed. Now, the third thing is probably the most important. Expand your influence and share this state of being, share this distinction with somebody who can probably never give you back in any form. It could be a peer leader, it could be a colleague, it could be a stranger, it could be a neighbor, but give it back. Bring to your communities, bring to the people that you cross the streets, people that you somehow meet in your office cafeteria or something like that, but don't hold yourself back and share this distinction with at least one leader every week. Now remember, this journey is not about perfection. In fact, it is about practice. You will have days when you slip back into old patterns. Even I do. We all do. That's not failure. That's part of the process. That's part of being human. What matters is your commitment to return again and again to this distinction. What am I bringing today? Or am I here to get something for myself today? because the world is waiting for leaders who understand that true power does not come from what we take, but from what we give. So will you be one of them? And with that, thank you for listening. Until the next time, keep choosing leadership.